modeled as a Markov decision process, and we discussed how to find the optimum policy when the system dynamics is modeled by a Markov decision process. And we told that in this situation, you cannot find the sequence of actions at one go. Rather, because the environment is stochastic, every time you can take only one action, then observe the environment, then figure the next action. And therefore, we learn a mapping from the states to actions. That is, at a particular state, what action we should take. Okay. So to continue on this, today I will give a very high-level overview of situations where planning and learning come together. The idea is
Ma'am, you are not audible.
I'm not.
Now you are.
Oh, now you can hear me. Earlier you could not hear me.
No, for a while it was like you were on mute. Sorry for that.
I see. Is it true for everybody? You could not hear me earlier?
For a few seconds, no. Yeah, I think what Ritaban said was correct.
Maybe it's a network problem.
Possibly, yeah.
So let me just tell you again. So in the last class, we talked about Markov decision process, where we have a set of states. We have the set of actions A. We have the start state. We have the transitions and the rewards. Just a minute. My pen is not working. Is my pen working? Let me try again. Now. So this is an MDP which we have discussed in the last class. And then these are the quantities also we have discussed. Policy, which tells you what action to take with what state. Utility, which is the sum of discounted rewards. That is the utility function that we discussed. We discussed about what is the value of a state or optimum value at a state. And we discussed what is the Q function corresponding to a state action pair. Now today we will give a very high level idea about reinforcement learning. The idea of a reinforcement learning is there is an agent which is interacting with the environment. The agent can take actions A, and from the environment it gets reward R, and it gets to know what state it is in. And the objective of the agent is to find the action or the policy so as to maximize the utility function. So we also assume that we have a Markov decision process and we are trying to find a policy pi. Only difference is that in this case, we do not know the model at value. That is, we do not know the transition function and reward function, and we are trying to act optimally in such an environment. So this is the paradigm of reinforcement learning. So while an MDP, the process is offline, that is given the model with all its parameters, you can work with the model and find out the best policy. In reinforcement learning, it is an online scenario. You know the world is Markovian, but you do not know the dynamics of the world. So you also have to collect data to find out more about the world so that you can devise the optimal policy. So this is a schematic of what you have to do. You have to collect data in order to understand the model. And for this, you have to choose actions to take. And so based on certain exploration policy, and you observe the reward and you get and the state you arrive at, and based on that you update the parameters. And we are going to look at several ways in which this can be done. Now, there are various situations. As we said, if the MDP dynamics is known, that is what we discussed yesterday, then we can use methods such as value iteration or policy iteration to find the optimum policy. But if the MDP dynamics is not known, we have to, there are two situations, two possibilities. One, we can learn the MDP first, or without learning the MDP, we can do something. If you want to learn the MDP, so we first collect data to learn the MDP, and then on that MDP, we find the optimum policy as we have done earlier. In the second case, where we proceed without specifically trying to learn the MDP, we try to learn the optimum policy directly without necessarily learning the MDP. Okay. And this is what we are going to look at. In passive reinforcement learning, we have model-based passive learning, where we first learn the model from experience and then solve the MDP, or model-free RL, where we do not specifically learn the MDP model, but directly learn the V or Q function, especially the Q function. So one of the important paradigms is Q learning, where we learn the Q star values directly. There is in passive reinforcement learning, the experiences that you get some data about the system. You know what is the state it is in, what is the action which is performed, what is the reward and next state, then A2, R2, S2. In passive reinforcement learning, there is a system which the action of the system is not in your control, but you can observe the data generated by the system, and from that data you can do model-based passive RL or model-free passive RL. The other possibility is active reinforcement learning, where the agent decides what action to take, right? Like what we showed in the last slide. So you have to figure out how to explore, that is what action to take, and how to trade off exploration and exploitation, which we will discuss. First, let us look at passive RL and model-based RL. So as we said that given the data, you can learn the transition functions and the reward function. And given that model, you can find the optimum policy. Okay. So this is an example. So you have a model-based RL. So suppose it is a system is working according to some policy. These are the episodes that you observe, and from that episode, you learn the transition function and the reward function. And based on that, I'll just skip that. So based on this, you can try to find So the first thing is clear. Now we'll come to model-free passive RL, and there the previous example will be useful. We'll come to that. So in passive RL, we don't learn the MDP model, but directly learn the V or Q, out of which Q learning is more useful and more popular. But first, we will briefly talk about value learning. So, suppose the transitions and the rewards of the system are not known to you, and your objective is that you observe for the system which is acting according to policy pi s, and you want to learn the state values, right? So the learner cannot decide what action to take, but the learner can observe the state action, reward state, action, reward state can observe this. And based on that, the learner can decide the policy. Now, objective is to compute Vs for every state S under the given policy pi, right? And the idea is you can average what you observe. So for example, suppose S1 is a particular state. Now you observe many instances where the system is at S1, and then you observe the subsequent behavior of the system, and you find out what is the utility that it is collecting. And you keep taking the averaging of the utility so that you can learn the value of every state. So based on these observations, you find an estimate of the values of every state, and based on more observation, you keep revising the estimate. There are certain problems with this evaluation. So you can easily understand this. You don't require the knowledge of T and R, but you can, you can compute the correct average values if you have enough amount of data. But there is a lot of unnecessary work being done because you are trying to learn all the states, all the actions, etc. Each state has to be separately learned. So this takes a very long time to learn. Now, there are certain more intelligent ways of doing it, and we will talk about it very briefly. So one algorithm is called temporal difference value learning, where we have a state, and for each state, we have an initial value of V, and at any time step, we have a current estimate of value at that state. And in the next iteration, we want to revise the value of a state, Vk plus 1s, based on the current estimates of the values at earlier states. So this is the equation that you are familiar with. And based on that, we can take the sample of the average. So you can collect different samples of data for starting from state S, and you can find the average of this. Now, the idea of temporal difference learning is that instead of waiting for every state to get a lot of situations, you want to learn from every experience. So every time as the system is, you observe the system, every time you observe SA and some state S prime and some reward R, every time you update VS. And those S primes which come more often will contribute more to the average. So policy is fixed and you are doing the evaluation. And as you proceed, the value is moving towards the expected average value. Okay. And this is how you compute the average. So this is the first sample. As you get a sample, you put 1 minus alpha times the previous value of V plus alpha times the current sample. Right? So you do a combination of previous average and the current value. And in this way, you can find the average value. The value of alpha is initially larger, and you can reduce the value of alpha gradually. So this is called a moving average. And this is an example of how it works. But in this scenario, we are only getting V, but we actually want to know how to act. So it becomes very difficult. It's not so easy to go from the values to the policy, because we want to know in this state, given an action, what would happen? So only by getting the value of a state, we cannot find the policy directly. So the better idea is to learn the Q values directly. And this, as I said, is more popular. So this method that we will talk about now is called Q learning, where you learn the Q values of the optimum policy. And the idea is that you start with, this is for the V learning, but instead of this, you start with initial Q values. So for every state action pair SA, you start with initial value of QSA to be 0. And you find QK plus 1 SA in terms of QKSA. And this is how you do it. So QK plus 1 SA is obtained from summation over S prime, transition probability SA S prime. Of course, you do not know the transition probability, but as we discussed, we can do some running average to compute this. And inside this bracket, we have the reward that we are getting plus gamma time max over A prime QK of S prime A prime. So in the previous time step, we have an estimate QK of every state action pair. Based on that, we can update QK plus 1 SA in terms of QK S prime A prime for all different pairs. So this is the main equation here. Right? So this you do not know, but this can be done by doing maximum, by doing the moving average. And you take an average of this for SA, and this value is based on the previous values. I'll just pause here. Do you have some questions? Do you have any questions? So this is the main iteration step for Q learning. So the idea of Q learning is that you can observe a system, you prepare a table which has S, A, and QSA. For every state action pair, you have the rows of the table, you initialize the rows to 0, and every time you are at a state and you go to the next state S prime, you can update QK plus 1 SA using this equation. Okay. And once you have this, when you keep updating the Q values incrementally, and there are certain properties which we are not discussing now. The Q values initially start from 0, and you can find out that the value of Q will keep increasing. It will not decrease. If you start Q initial value to be 0, the value of Q of SA for any state action will go on increasing until it converges. So you directly learn the QSA values, and if you know all the QSA values or based on the current QSA values at a particular state S, you find that action for which QSA value is the largest, and you say that that is my best policy. So this is a very simple algorithm, and this is very useful. And this algorithm is called model free because in order to apply this algorithm, you don't learn the model specifically. Rather, you learn the Q values directly from which you can find your policy. So every time you get SA S prime R, based on that, you look at your old estimate of QSA and you revise your estimate based on the sample. So this is the sample. The sample, you get a reward So you say sample equal to this reward plus gamma times this quantity you can find out from the previous QSA values that you have for the different states. And then this estimate of the sample has to be incorporated into the running average by this mechanism. Okay, as an alternative to this. Is this algorithm clear to everybody? So please tell me if it is okay. So why are you blank? So please let me know if you have understood. Shivam Srivastav, can you respond? Ushoshi Dash?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you understood this?
Clear.
Okay, thank you. Divyansh Bhatia? Divyansh? Is this okay with you? Okay. So you have this is the table for QSA values. As you keep getting examples, initially you start with 0 value at the table and you go on updating the table. Now, these are some properties of Q-learning. First of all, we have this result, which is pretty amazing, that Q-learning converges to optimal policy, and it does not matter what action you are taking, right? Even if the actions are not optimal, right? So it is not that you are finding Q under a particular pi. So this Q-learning algorithm will converge to Q star SA, regardless of that whether, so in the data that you get, regardless of what policy is being followed. And therefore, this is also a type of off-policy learning. What is on-policy learning? In on-policy learning, if the system is following a particular policy pi, you want to learn Q pi SA. So the Q that you get depends on the policy. But the Q-learning algorithm gives you Q star SA regardless of what policy is being followed. But you have to explore enough. That is, every state action pair must be visited sufficiently often. And the learning rate, this alpha, initially can be large. Alpha is, of course, less than 1, but you can slowly decrease alpha. And finally, the alpha can become small enough. Because if alpha does not become small, then the values of Q will not converge. But you have to make sure that you don't decrease alpha too quickly so that the system can learn. So in the limit, you can get the Q star SA values. Is it okay? So this is a very influential learning algorithm for reinforcement learning. Now we will briefly talk about active reinforcement learning, where the agent can try to be more efficient in collecting data by deciding what actions to take. Also, you assume that you have an agent which is in a state, and in that state, the agent has to decide what action to take. Now, the agent has two options. Suppose the agent is at state S, and there are two choices of action, A1 and A2. And there is, for SA1, there is an estimate of what is the value. Of SA2, there is an estimate of what is the value. Ideally, if the values are correct, the agent will take an action so as to have the better value. So it will exploit It will exploit what is known. But it is quite likely that for some of these actions, there is not sufficient data so that the value of QSA has not converged. So the agent will like to explore so that it can get more information about the unknown situations. So the agent, which is online and performing active reinforcement learning, will decide how to explore, what action to take, and how to trade off exploration and exploitation, so that while it is exploring, it also continues to earn utility. Okay, so this is called active reinforcement learning. So here the learner makes choices, and as I said, the trade-off is between exploration and exploitation. This is illustrated by this picture. So this is a robot. This is the usual place where the robot knows that it will be happy. And this is a new restaurant which has opened, and the robot does not know if the robot will be happy dining there. So the robot wants to explore so that it gets to learn about this, so that in future it can get a better, make a better decision. Now, how can the robot explore? There are different schemes which are there. The simplest, which is often followed, is the epsilon greedy scheme, where with some probability, the robot exploits or the system exploits the best action, and with some other probability, it takes a random action. With probability epsilon, it takes a random action. So this scheme is called the epsilon greedy scheme. So every time step, the robot flips a coin, and with a probability epsilon, it acts randomly, and with a probability 1 minus epsilon, it exploits what is known. Now, what is the problem with random actions? So you do eventually explore the space, but it may be quite inefficient, because once you have finished learning, you still keep on exploring. And then you can, one possibility is that initially epsilon may be larger, and slowly you can make epsilon smaller, because with time, as you learn the Q values, you want to exploit more and more. So you can lower epsilon with time. The other type of solution is people have tried different exploration functions which guide how much the user will explore versus exploit. So with such functions, with such exploration functions, the system can explore areas which are not yet fully known. So for every state action pair, you keep around a visit count, right? So based on the visit count, you take a decision about what to explore and how much to update or consider that value. So this is an example exploration function. Suppose there is a value estimate U and a visit count N. And so this value estimate function will take UN and return U plus K by N, right? So if N is large, it will return U. K is some constant. If N is small, it will return U plus K. Optimistic estimate. Why an optimistic estimate? If you're not talking, please mute your mic. Why an optimistic estimate? Because you want the robot to explore those situations where the visit count is small. Okay, so you give an optimistic estimate of the value of that state action. So a normal Q update, as we have seen, looks like this. QSA is alpha times RSA S prime plus gamma, etc. Okay. Now, in the modified Q update, so instead of this term, you use this term, which is f of qs prime a prime. This is the current estimate, and this is the visit count of that state action period. Is this clear to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
So you are trying to explore those state actions where the visit is small, where you have smaller, number of samples. So you're trying to get more samples of them, and this is done by, having modifying the utility function so that those state actions which are not visited many times, which are visited only a few times, you hike their utility values. So if you hike the utility values, the agent will, try to go to those state action values. Now, this is basically, a very high level overview of reinforcement learning, including model based and model free. Then passive RL, where you can look at the experience, but you cannot collect experience. And active RL, where you decide what experience to collect. Okay, so this is in the nutshell. Now, the next few minutes, I will also talk about, some more practical issues which has made reinforcement learning very practical and very useful. Now, one of the drawbacks of this MDP and RL is the size. So if the state space or the number of state action pairs is very large, right? Then such a system takes a very long time, requires a lot of space, etc. Also, in many situations, the state space is continuous. And if you discretize it, it can become very large, right? So you are not able to be able to apply such systems to many real life situations. So since the basic learning, it keeps a table of all values. So if the state space is large, then the size of the table becomes very large. And in realistic situations, there is another possibility. You cannot learn about every single state. Consider an example of self-driving cars, right? And self-driving cars, people use RL for self-driving cars. Now, if the system has to learn for every state, the system will also do some dangerous maneuvers. So you cannot let the system also to go to all states. So in many situations, you may not be possible for you because of time constraint to visit all state action, and it may not be safe also to visit all state action. And then there may be too many states to hold the Q tables in memory. So in order to work in these situations, the powerful idea is we want to generalize. Instead of having an explicit table where you store the value of every state or Q value of every state action pair, you learn a function. You learn a function which gives you an estimate of QS. You learn a function in terms of certain features of this. Okay. So you try to learn a function which generalizes two states or state actions which you have not even encountered. How you can do it? You can extract certain features of the state and action, and using a smaller number of examples, you can learn the function for those features so that you can generalize to unknown situations. And this is what is done in machine learning. We will talk briefly about machine learning later in this course, but just a preview while we are doing reinforcement. Now, in feature-based representation, we describe a state using a vector of features or properties of the state. Right? And then, these are some examples of features. For example, in the grid world, where you have an agent, and the agent, there are certain states where there is gold, there are certain states where there is a pit, there is a ghost, etc. So some examples of feature could be distance to the closest host, distance to the closest dot, number of ghosts, 1 by distance to dot square, is Pac-Man in a tunnel, so is the agent in a tunnel, yes or no, and so on. Right? So these are some examples of features of this world. So instead of having a different state for every configuration, you evaluate the values of these features and let the values of these features represent the state. Right? Now, so you can now say the value of a state or Q value of a state action is a function of these features, F1s, F2s, Fns. Suppose these are the n features of a state, and you can learn a function such as a linear function, which learns the coefficients of a linear function, which uses the F1, F2, and Fn values to compute Bs. But it is up to the designer or the developer to find the appropriate F1, F2, Fn values. You can do the same for QSD. So this is called approximate Q learning. So this is how you represent Q. And suppose you are using this type of linear function. Then suppose you observe a transition S, A, R, S prime. Now, based on this particular transition, the value that you get is R plus gamma times max over A prime Q S prime A prime. And this is the actual value. And this is the difference between the value obtained from the sample and the actual values. And you will now modify Q based on the old Q value and plus alpha times the difference. Or in approximate case, you you use the featured values. Okay. So corresponding to each feature, you find the weight. And there are certain standard things. I will not go into the algorithm now. This will be covered in your machine learning course. So there's a least square estimation algorithm to find the coefficients of this linear function. Now, so to summarize, we have passive RL, under which we have model based and model free. Then we have active RL, where we try to find out how to explore. Now, the last topic which I will mention only in passing is this very powerful idea of deep reinforcement learning, where deep neural networks are used to represent the value function or the Q function. Okay, so this is the definition of Q star SA as we have seen. It is the expected value of this. Right? Now, what we can do is that for a particular sample, we can compute this value R plus gamma times max of A prime Q S prime A prime W. And then we can say that we have a network which given S and A as input, it computes this value as the output. Okay? This is the value that it wants. And based on this, we can train a neural network. So the loss function is the difference between the sample value and the original Q value. Okay, so with this, I come to the end of this very brief overview of reinforcement learning. Now, I will stop now and I take questions from you. Do you have any questions? Then we can discuss. Any questions from you? Please respond.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so if you don't have question, you can leave. I will stay on. So if anyone has any questions on any topic, you can ask.